At this point, there's an exhibit of which the parties are still in dispute. I believe it's okay to continue playing at this point, and we can resolve it after the fact.
Is that?
Yeah, we can resolve it after the deposition.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Thank you.
Are invoices that you produced from February 2015 from February 6, 2015 to February 1st, 2021. Do you recall producing these documents?
No. Those would have come from my accountant's office.
Okay. Are you still working for Mr. Depp?
Yes.
Okay. And so at the bottom here, there's a lot that just say case management fee. Do you know what that refers to as opposed to nursing services and doctor services?
That's a retainer fee that I have with him on a monthly basis.
Now, Dr. Kipper, we received invoices for you from Mr. Depp from Fireman's Insurance Fund for 2014. Does this look like an invoice from your office to Mr. Depp? Dr. Kipper, you've already testified that these are invoices to Mr. Depp, correct?
I've testified that these are invoices. This is something generated from my accountant. Yes.
Have you spoken to Mr. Depp's legal counsel since the beginning of this year?
Yes.
Who have you spoken to?
I've spoken to Camille on 2 occasions.
Anybody else?
No.
What did you speak to Camille about?
About the deposition.
Mr. Kipper, Dr. Kipper, I think you're incorrect. I think also Ms. Myers was in one of those telephone conversations.
That's right.
And other than the scheduling of the deposition, did they talk about the issues that you were going to be asked about?
Yes, of course.
Okay. How long were the conversations?
45 minutes each.
Were they over phone or by Zoom or in person?
The first conversation was in person, and the second was by Zoom.
And you thought there were about 2 45-minute calls?
About that.
Are you paying for your counsel in this case?
Yes, I am.
First of all, Dr. Kipper, do you remember seeing this document earlier?
Yes, I do.
And you recognize it as your initial consultation notes with Mr. Depp?
Yes.
I'd like to direct your attention to the 3rd page. Excuse me. Okay. You see here where it says impressions.
Yes.
Now, could you describe what the items listed under this heading are?
So the first one, primary dopamine imbalance. This in general terms, I don't know. Primary dopamine imbalance, ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, bipolar 1, depression secondary to above, insomnia, chronic substance abuse disorder, chronic reflux.
With respect to these items, are these an official diagnosis of Mr. Depp?
These are my impressions, yes.
When you say impression, is that considered would you consider that a diagnosis?
Yes, Ms. Myers, that's my diagnostic impression.
I'd like to pull up what's already been marked as Kipper Exhibit 4, please. Dr. Kipper, I believe we've already established, but could you confirm that you recognize this document?
Yes.
And these are also notes of a consultation you had with Mr. Depp?
Correct.
And it appears from these notes that Miss Debbie Lloyd was at the meeting, correct?
Yes.
And she's a registered nurse?
Yes.
And did Mr. Depp's treatment plan contemplate Miss Lloyd remaining with Mr. Depp during his therapy?
Yes.
And was it contemplated that Miss Lloyd would personally distribute his medications to him?
Yes.
Did Miss Lloyd personally dispense medications to Mr. Depp?
Yes, she did.
And how regular was Miss Lloyd's contact with Mr. Depp?
She had contact with him daily, either physically or by phone.
How often would you estimate that she was physically in contact with him?
I would say 80%, 90% of the time, somewhere in there.
And Mr. Depp agreed to this supervision by Miss Lloyd?
Yes.
Alex, could we please pull up what's been marked as Kipper Exhibit 6? Dr. Kipper, could you please confirm that these are your notes from a consultation you had with Mr. Depp in Boston in June of 2014?
Yes, this is a summary from June 22nd to June 24th of that of that time with him.
And if we scroll down, I guess I have control here. The notes reflect here that you met with Ms. Heard at that time, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Heard tell you that she was concerned about Mr. Depp being violent with her at this consultation?
No.
If she had told you that, is that something you would have documented in these notes?
Yes.
Your note here states that Amber has a strong family history of drug and alcohol abuse and is particularly sensitive to his behaviors and potential for abuse. The phrase potential for abuse, is that referring to substance abuse?
Yes.
It's not referring to physical abuse.
No.
And what do you mean when you state that Ms. Heard is particularly sensitive to Mr. Depp's behaviors?
Having grown up in that environment, she's used to seeing the trauma that it inflicts and is not only able to recognize it, but also it affects her. She has the ability to understand what that looks like.
And was this your observation of her or something she told you?
This is something she told me.
Alex, could you please pull up what's been marked as Kipper Exhibit 5, please? Dr. Kipper, you recognize these as, I believe you testified, a combination of your own patient notes and Miss Lloyd's patient notes for Mr. Depp, correct?
Yes.
And I believe you testified you compiled them together. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you, for the notes that were taken by Ms. Lloyd, did you specifically request that she maintain these notes?
Yes, that's part of her responsibility.
And did you advise her on what types of information she should include in those notes?
No.
Is there anything in particular that you asked her to include in the notes?
No, she was trained in this, and she knew what the important metrics were in notation.
And I believe you testified that you have reviewed these notes in their entirety before, correct?
Yes.
How many times would you say you've reviewed these notes?
I reviewed them at the time they were written, and I reviewed them probably a couple weeks ago, so twice.
I'm going to turn to the last page now. And do you see this note marked June 30th?
Yes.
And so do you understand that to be June 30th, 2015?
Yes.
Did Miss Lloyd stop attending to Mr. Depp around this time?
I'm going to refer to my timetable just because I'll have a better sense of where the treatment was.
All right, I'd like to talk to you briefly about the detox process on Mr. Depp's island in August 2014. I believe you said that you traveled down to attend to Mr. Depp during this time, correct?
Yes.
And when you arrived on the island, who was present?
Mr. Depp, Miss Heard, Miss Lloyd, and assistants for Mr. Depp, and I can't recall which assistants.
Do you recall how many?
No. There were people that I think lived or serviced that island when he was there. There were probably 4 of those people, and I'm not sure if he had 1 or 2 of his own assistants.
Dr. Kipper, when you arrived on the island in August 2014, did you see where Mr. Depp was staying during that time?
Yes.
And what did these accommodations look like?
He had a little home structure. It was a small structure, a bedroom and a kitchen and a little sitting area.
And was Ms. Heard staying there with him?
Yes.
And relative to where Mr. Depp was staying, where was Ms. Lloyd staying?
She was staying on another part of the island in a structure called a yurt, which is like a tent.
And how far away, how long would it take Ms. Lloyd to get to where Mr. Depp was staying?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Would that be walking?
No, that would be on a motorized vehicle.
And relative to where Mr. Depp was staying, where did you stay when you were on the island?
Stayed on the other side of that yurt.
Okay. Also in a yurt?
Yes.
Had Mr. Depp's detoxification process already started when you arrived on the island?
Yes.
And had Ms. Lloyd been overseeing that process?
Yes.
Did she report any issues to you upon your arrival?
She certainly updated. I was updated. He started on the 10th. I arrived on the 12th, So I was in full communication with her from the beginning.
After you arrived on the island, did you personally oversee Mr. Depp's detoxification process?
Yes.
And how often would you check in on him?
Several times a day.
And was this physically going to see him?
No, this would be seeing him physically once a day and then checking on his progress throughout the day.
So during the detoxification process, you did see Mr. Depp at least once a day?
Yes.
And was Miss Lloyd checking on Mr. Depp daily?
Yes.
And she was seeing him in person daily as well?
Yes.
You went and saw Mr. Depp after receiving that message, correct?
Yes.
And did Miss Lloyd go with you?
Yes.
And where did you see Mr. Depp after receiving that message?
I believe I saw him outside of his little home. It was either in across from this little home was like a little cantina where one would eat, and it was, I think, around the cantina.
And what was his physical condition at that time?
He was frustrated. He was uncomfortable.
How was his demeanor?
One of being frustrated and uncomfortable.
And was Miss Heard with him at that time?
When I saw Mr. Depp at that point, no, she was not.
And at this time, this was in the middle of his detoxification process, correct?
Yes.
Did you see Miss Heard that evening?
I can't remember.
Do you recall Miss Heard seeking medical treatment from you for any physical injuries while you were on the island in August 2014? Okay, go ahead.
No, I don't.
If Miss Heard had sought treatment from you for injuries, is that something you would have documented?
Yes, I would have.
Is that something you would have remembered her telling you?
Yes.
Did you see Miss Heard after this evening of August 17th?
On that particular evening, that I can't remember. But I did see Miss Heard pretty much daily during my time on the island.
So did you see her at some point, perhaps, did you see her the next day?
Yes.
And did you observe any injuries to Miss Heard at that time?
No.
She didn't have any bruises that you observed?
No.
After you met with Mr. Depp that evening of August 17th, did you go back to his accommodations at some point?
No. No, I think we resolved the issues where we were outside of his little hut, his home.
So you didn't go and attend to him again in his home after that time?
No.
Alex, could you please pull up what's been marked as Kipper Exhibit 8? Thank you. Dr. Kipper, I think do you remember this email from earlier in your deposition?
Yes, I do.
And I believe you testified that you recall sending this email to Ms. Dombrowski on August 18, 2014, correct?
Yes.
At the time you wrote this email, how long had you known Mr. Depp?
approximately 4 months.
And in those 4 months, how much time had you spent with Mr. Depp in person?
I couldn't give you a cumulative number of hours, but I would say, I would estimate that, including up until August 18, I would guesstimate 20 hours.
Is it fair to say that when you wrote this email, most of the time you had known Mr. Depp or spent with Mr. Depp was while he was in detox?
Yes.
During the time that you were with Mr. Depp on the island for his detox process, did you ever witness him physically abuse Ms. Heard?
No, never.
Did you ever see any physical evidence that Mr. Depp had abused Ms. Heard?
No. Same answer, never.
And during your time on the island, did you witness Ms. Heard abuse Mr. Depp in any way?
No.
Do you recall when Ms. Heard first became your patient?
No, I couldn't give you a definitive date.
It would have been before October 2014, though, correct?
Yes.
And it would have been after Mr. Depp's detox on the island in August 2014, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. When you started treating Ms. Heard, did you assign a nurse to her? When you started treating Ms. Heard, was there a nurse that you assigned to her?
I can't recall whether Ms. Myers, it was when I started to treat her. At some point, I did assign a nurse to her, but I can't tell you which came first. I believe I was treating her before I had recommended a nurse to her.
So your recollection is that you started treating her, and after that, a nurse was assigned?
That's my memory, yes.
Do you have a sense of how close in time to you beginning your treatment the nurse was assigned to Ms. Heard?
It couldn't have been too long, but I honestly can't give you a specific reference of time.
Do you remember that nurse's name?
Erin Borum.
And is Ms. Borum a registered nurse?
Yes.
And I believe you covered this earlier. Ms. Borum is a contractor for you?
Yes.
But she reports to you with respect to your patients that she covers.
Correct.
During the time that Ms. Heard was your patient and she had a nurse, Ms. Borum was assigned to her, how regular was Ms. Borum checking in with Ms. Heard?
Very regular. Very regular. Saw her, yes.
Would she have seen her on a daily basis?
I don't believe it was a daily basis, but I know had daily contact with her in some way.
Would Ms. Borum have seen Ms. Heard in person on at least a weekly basis?
Yes.
Were there times that Ms. Borum traveled with Ms. Heard?
Yes.
And as a registered nurse, does Ms. Borum have an obligation to report any suspected abuse of her patient to you? Alex, could you please pull up document H? Alex, is this Kipper Exhibit 34? Yes. Dr. Kipper, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And what is it?
It's an initial intake of that care.
I'm going to scroll down a bit and just show you that there are future entries on this document as well. Do you see these?
I do. I'm assuming, I don't want to make an assumption, but I would believe these notes are from Aaron Forum. But if you'll give me a second to look at this, I can be more specific.
Certainly. Let me know if you'd like me to scroll through the document a bit more. I can do that for you.
Yes, these are notes from Aaron Forum.
Does this document reflect any of your own notes on Ms. Heard?
This reflects my treatment recommendations.
But these are Ms. Forum's notes.
Yes. Yes.
Did you ask Ms. Forum to maintain these notes?
Yes.
And for what purpose?
Because she was monitoring a patient, and I needed to be informed of how the patient was doing and for any adjustments of treatment.
Did you tell Ms. Forum what type of information should be documented in the notes?
No.
And would there be anything that you expressly asked her not to document?
No.
Do you understand that Ms. Forum used her training and judgment in preparing these notes?
Yes, I do.
You weren't telling her what to include in these notes. She was drafting them on her own. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Have you reviewed these notes before?
I have reviewed these notes.
Have you reviewed them in their entirety?
Yes, but not recently.
And how often would you review Ms. Forum's notes on Ms. Heard?
I review my nurse's notes as they come in, so that would be on a real-time basis.
Okay. And going back to the first page, do you see this entry is dated August 27th, 2014?
Yes.
Does this refresh your recollection as to when Ms. Forum would have been assigned to Ms. Heard?
Yes.
And does this at all refresh your recollection as to when you started treating Ms. Heard?
Yes, this would be about the time.
During the time that you treated Ms. Heard, did she ever seek treatment from you for injuries that appeared to be the result of domestic abuse?
No, she did not.
Did she ever seek treatment from you for any injuries that she told you were caused by Mr. Depp?
No, she did not.
And did Ms. Heard ever tell you that Mr. Depp abused her?
No, she did not.
And you never witnessed any physical abuse by Mr. Depp against Ms. Heard during the time that you treated both of them?
No, never.
If Ms. Bourne observed that Ms. Heard had any physical injuries, is this something that would have been documented in her patient notes for Ms. Heard?
Yes, absolutely.
In March 2015, you traveled down to Australia to attend Mr. Depp, is that right?
Yes.
And at the time, Mr. Depp was already in Australia, correct?
Correct.
And was Miss Lloyd with him?
Yes.
And was Miss Heard with him?
Yes.
You arrived in Australia. When did you first see Mr. Depp?
I believe it was the day after I arrived.
And where did you see him?
I saw him at his home in Australia.
And how long did you meet with him during that time?
Probably an hour.
When you first met with Mr. Depp in Australia, did you see the home that he was staying in?
Yes.
And was it a standalone house?
Yes.
Was there a fence around the house?
I'm sorry?
Was there a fence around the house?
That I can't recall.
Do you recall whether Mr. Depp's security team was at the property?
Yes, they were.
Where did you see them?
I saw them in and around the house.
Do you recall how many security personnel there were?
2 to 3.
Now, after you arrived in Australia, at some point you were notified that Mr. Depp had been injured, correct?
Yes.
And I believe this was covered earlier in your deposition. You actually received a text message from Mr. Depp, correct?
Yes.
And after you received that message, did you go directly to Mr. Depp?
Yes.
And Ms. Lloyd came with you?
Yes.
And I believe you said that Mr. Depp was outside the property in a car at that time, right?
That's correct.
Was Mr. Depp's security team there with him?
Yes.
And you examined Mr. Depp in the car with his security team present?
Yes, I saw him seated in the car when I arrived.
Did Mr. Depp tell you what had happened to his finger at that time?
Yes.
How long did you attend to Mr. Depp outside of the house?
Not long, probably a half hour, because I needed to get him to the emergency room.
So immediately after meeting him at the house, you went with him to the emergency room?
Yes, I cleaned his wound to the best that I could with the supplies that we had, and then took him. So it was within a half hour that we left.
Did you return to the house after bringing Mr. Depp to the hospital?
No, I was taken back to my hotel.
After you attended to Mr. Depp and before you went to the hospital with him, did you go inside the house?
No.
You did not go inside the property the day that Mr. Depp contacted you about his injured finger?
No, I did go into the house, as I had stated, that after I saw him initially, I went into the home to see the home.
And that was before you went to the hospital with him?
Yes, I went in to instruct one of the people with him to look for the tip of the finger, hoping that we would be able to put it back.
Was the tip of the finger found?
It was found.
Who found it?
I believe this man was their chef.
And do you know where he found it or where he told you he found it?
He said he found it in the kitchen area.
When you went into the house, did you see Miss Heard?
Yes.
And how did she appear?
She was certainly upset.
Did Miss Heard seek any medical attention from you for any injuries at that time?
No.
Did Miss Heard seek any medical attention from Miss Lloyd at that time?
No.
Did you observe any physical injuries to Miss Heard when you saw her that on March 2nd, 2015?
No.
So Miss Heard did not have any observable bruises that you saw?
That's correct.
And did Miss Heard appear to have a broken nose? Was Miss Heard's face swollen at all when you saw her?
Not that I was aware of, no.
Did Miss Heard have any cuts on her arms when you saw her?
Not that I can recall.
Did you recall seeing any cuts on her feet or any other part of her body?
I can't recall.
If Miss Heard had appeared to have been injured, is this something that you would have documented?
Yes.
Did you observe any broken glass in the house?
Yes.
Could you tell what the glass was from?
No.
Was there blood around the broken glass?
There was blood around the home, as I had previously mentioned, but I didn't specifically see blood on glass.
Where did you see the broken glass?
In the kitchen area.
And that's where the top part of the finger was found as well?
Yes.
Alex, could you please bring up what I believe was marked as Kipper Exhibit 17? Dr. Kipper, you recognize this document from earlier in the deposition?
Yes.
It's a letter dated March 15th, 2015 from you to Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
And you did send this letter to Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
Alex, could you please pull up what I've marked as document K, and I believe will be Kipper Exhibit 35. Dr. Kipper, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And what is it?
If you could just, for my verification, can you scroll down to the bottom, please?
Sure. It goes on for 2 pages.
Yes, I'm familiar with this document, yes.
Did you prepare this document?
No.
Is this a document that was prepared by someone who works for you?
This was prepared by Monroe Tinker, who is a nurse practitioner who worked for me at that time.
Is this a record that's ordinarily prepared and maintained in the course of your business?
Yes.
And have you reviewed this document before?
Yes.
When would you have reviewed it?
I reviewed it immediately after the visit, probably the next day. And I also reviewed this a couple weeks ago.
And I'd just like to direct your attention to the last page. Is this your signature here?
Yes.
And when would you have signed this?
That was confirming that I reviewed Mr. Tinker's notes.
Going back to the top, this is a patient record for Ms. Heard, correct?
Yes.
And this, where it says date December 17th, 2015, is that the date of this, that's the date of this document?
Yes.
And the document states a phone call consultation headache, correct?
Yes.
So does that mean that on December 17th, 2015, Ms. Heard called the offices to report a headache?
Yes.
And right below this, there's a paragraph that starts out with HPI. What does that stand for?
History of present illness.
And is the information in this paragraph what Ms. Heard reported during her phone consultation?
That's what's written. I was not there, but that's what's written.
States today the patient reports a headache after she bumped her head while standing up 2 days ago, correct?
Yes.
And a couple sentences below that, it says last seen in the office on 12/23/2015. Is that an error, or did she come back in later?
No, I think that's got to be an error.
So based on this document, it's your understanding that Ms. Heard called the office on December 17th.
Yes.
Scrolling down to the bottom here, it says objective data physical exam. Do you see that?
Yes.
Does that mean that Ms. Heard came into the offices for a physical examination?
That's what it signifies, yes.
And would that have also been on December 17th, 2015?
Yes. This note reflects that visit. Everything in this note reflects that visit.
And so Monroe would have also performed that physical examination?
Monroe did perform that physical examination. I did not see Ms. Heard. Monroe saw Ms. Heard.
And the information below this heading of physical exam, which goes on to the next page, are these the findings from Ms. Heard's physical exam on December 17th?
Correct.
And if Ms. Heard had any physical injuries, would those have been noted in this portion of the document?
Yes.
And there are some medical terms in here, but so if you could let me know, does any of this indicate that there were physical injuries that were documented?
No.
Does this document indicate that a concussion check was performed?
Yes.
And what were the results of that?
Under the assessment and plan as written, Mr. Tinker did not indicate concussion under his assessment.
Under assessment and plan, item 4 says that Dr. Kipper is aware of the medical plan and is in agreement. That's consistent with your recollection?
Yes.
And I believe you testified you didn't see Ms. Heard on December 17th, correct?
That's correct.
How were you informed of the medical plan?
I spoke to Mr. Tinker by telephone.
And would that conversation have happened on the 17th as well?
Yes.
Alex, could you please pull up document L? And I believe this is what will be marked as Kipper Exhibit 36. Dr. Kipper, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I recognize it upon looking at it, yes.
What do you recognize this document as?
As an email from Ms. Heard to me requesting medical records for that month of December.
December 2015?
Yes.
And do you recall receiving this email?
I don't recall receiving it, but I'm sure I did, and I'm sure I reviewed it. Yes.
And you see that the email is dated August 8th, 2016, correct?
Yes.
And you have no reason to doubt that you received the email on or around that date?
Correct.
On August 8th, 2016, was Ms. Heard still your patient?
I believe so, but I can't be sure.
Now, I'm going to read from this email here. Ms. Heard writes to you, as per our conversation earlier, is it possible to get my medical records from the month of December, please? I know I saw Monroe during one of my office visits, if it makes it easier for you to find. I'm not sure. Anyway, it was great talking to you earlier. Ms. Heard references speaking to you earlier in this email, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall having spoken to Ms. Heard before receiving this email?
I can't remember.
You don't remember anything about a conversation that you might have had with Ms. Heard prior to receiving this email?
No, I can't recall that.
And I believe you already stated this, but you understand Ms. Heard to be requesting medical records from December 2015, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. Heard mentions Monroe in this email as well, correct?
Correct.
And Monroe is the nurse practitioner that Ms. Heard saw on December 17, 2015, right?
Yes.
Did you provide Ms. Heard with her medical records for December 2015?
I believe so.
And do you recall what those records consisted of?
The one we just reviewed.
Was that the only one for December 2015?
Again, I would have to research her chart for that information, but I know at least it was that note.
Did Ms. Heard ever ask you for any other medical records?
No.
In the over 6 years that you've known Mr. Depp, have you ever witnessed him be physically abusive to any person?
Never.
And you've never witnessed him be physically abusive to Ms. Heard, correct?
Correct.
You've also known Ms. Heard for over 6 years at this point, correct?
Yes, although I have not seen Ms. Heard for at least a couple years, perhaps 3 years.
In the 6 years that you treated in the over 6 years you've treated Mr. Depp, has Mr. Depp ever complained to you that Ms. Heard has physically abused him?
No, not that I can recall.
Have you ever witnessed Ms. Heard be physically abusive to Mr. Depp?
No.
Has anyone who works for you or reports to you ever reported to you that they witnessed Ms. Heard be physically abusive to Mr. Depp?
No, not that I can recall.
You testified earlier from questions from Ms. Myers that the tip of Mr. Depp's finger was found in the kitchen, found on the floor of the kitchen in the home in Australia, correct?
Right.
And do you know where the kitchen was? Was it on what floor the kitchen was?
There was a downstairs below the kitchen area. I think I'm not really sure. I think those were bedrooms, but I'm not positive. So this would be on the main floor. The kitchen was on the main floor as you went into the home.
And that's where the tip of the finger was found, in the kitchen on the main floor?
Yes.
No, there was a text message where you got a text message from Mr. Depp.
Yes.
And he said he cut his finger, correct?
I think that's what it said, yes.
Okay. And the reference from the emergency room said that Mr. Depp had sliced his finger with a knife, correct?
Yes, that's what he told, because I was present for that. That's what he told the emergency room doctor.
Okay. So Mr. Depp told the emergency room doctor that he had cut his finger with a knife, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't put that in any of your notes that a bottle was thrown at Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
Did Mr. Depp have any cuts anywhere else on his face or anywhere else that would have come from glass? Now, if Ms. Heard told Ms. Borum that Mr. Depp had hit her in the face several times and sent her pictures of bruises, would you expect Ms. Borum to report that in her notes?
I would have expected Ms. Borum to send me those pictures.
Okay. So you would have expected to see those pictures from Ms. Borum, is that correct?
Yes.
And you would have expected, and you would have wanted Ms. Borum to, if she had seen a text that said, I was hit in the face by Ms. Heard and then received pictures of bruises, that Ms. Borum would report that to you, correct?
Yes.
Is that an instruction that you gave to your nurses to report to you any abuse that they saw or were reported to them?
Yes, if they saw that as valid, Ms. Heard, for example, if somebody hurt Ms. Heard while she was under the direct care of Ms. Borum, and Ms. Borum documented that Ms. Heard had been injured, she certainly would have reported that to me.
That's what your expectation would be, that she would report it.
Dr. Kipper, did you keep any notes of your treatment of Mr. Depp while he was in Australia?
Other than the summary notes, no.
And was Miss Lloyd with you when Mr. Depp told you what had happened to his finger before you brought him to the hospital?
I believe yes. I'm not positive, but I believe yes, because she was helping me at the car to try to clean out that finger, which is when he explained what happened.
So you believe that Miss Lloyd would have heard Mr. Depp's explanation?
I believe so.
All right, that completes the deposition. And the next witness is also by deposition, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. Debbie Lloyd.
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and take our morning break. It's a little early, but since the next witness is also by deposition, why don't we take our 15-minute break now so you can stretch for a little bit, and we'll come back in about 15 minutes, okay? So you can go ahead. Do not talk to anybody, don't do any outside research, right? Okay, thank you. 15 minutes. All right. I'm told this clock is right today, so we'll come back at 11:25, okay? All right, thank you. You have that?
Yes, I have the.
Okay.
And then there's one that there's a disagreement on that we can address an hour later.
Okay, well, which one do you have a disagreement on? We might as well do it now before we go on to the next deposition.
Sure. So the exhibit is, it's invoices from Dr. Kipper.
What number is it?
I'm sorry, it is
1067, or defendant's exhibit 1067.
That's correct, and we have no objection to the document coming in. It's
Okay.
just we have a disagreement about the redactions.
All right, if you want to come forward, then maybe we'll take a look at the, and you said 1067, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, sure.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Berderhoff, are you ready for the jury? Are you ready for the jury? Okay, just make sure. That's right, thank you. All right, thank you. Nice. Just for the record, I assume, juror number 10, that's your address to your employer because you need a letter from your employer. Is that correct? Okay. So the court's going to do a letter for his employer so he can be released from work for 6 weeks. So that's what that information is, just for the record. It's just his employer's address. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, are we ready for your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Depp calls Debbie Lloyd
Okay.
by a video.
By deposition. Okay.
So.
Okay.
California,
Yes,
and you do not live or work in Virginia, correct?
correct.
Have you at any time spoken with, can you please provide your full name?
Deborah Lynn Lloyd.
And Ms. Lloyd, you live in California,
Yes,
and you work in California,
yes,
and you do not live or work in Virginia, correct?
correct.
Have you at any time spoken with Mr. Depp or any of his counsel, either in preparation for this deposition or for any other matter after you no longer worked with Mr. Depp?
Yes.
Do you recall who you spoke to?
I believe her name was Camille.
And do you recall when you spoke to Camille approximately?
2 weeks ago.
And what did Camille and you discuss?
She had asked me if Johnny had ever thrown anything at me.
And what did you say?
No.
Were there any other, was that the total of your communications with Camille?
That was the only time that I remember speaking to her.
Did you speak about anything else other than whether, and when you say Johnny, I assume you mean Mr. Depp, correct?
Yes.
Did you have any other, did you discuss anything else other than whether Mr. Depp had thrown something at you?
They had asked if I would be willing to go to Virginia to the trial.
And are you willing to go to Virginia to be a trial witness?
No.
Did you, at any time, did you speak, and did you have any other, you recall anything else you and Camille spoke about?
Not in detail.
You know how long the conversation was, approximately?
Approximately 15 minutes.
Was it over the phone?
Yes.
Do you recall at any other time having any other communications with any other counsel for Mr. Depp?
No, there was somebody else on that call, I believe, from his side, but I don't know who it was.
Do you recall if it was a man or a woman?
A man.
Did you ever speak to Adam Waldman?
I know an Adam reached out to me a long time ago. I don't remember a last name.
You're a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner?
Yes.
Can you briefly explain what that is?
I'm a nurse practitioner that specializes in psychiatry.
And did you go to, where'd you go to school for that?
I got my master's from Maryville University.
Is that in California?
It's in Illinois.
And I understand.
It's in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri. Sorry.
No problem. And I understand you're also a certified addiction nurse?
Yes.
And can you briefly explain what that is?
I had to get a certification in addiction nursing.
And what is addiction nursing?
Nursing that specializes in taking care of patients with chemical dependency issues.
And chemical dependency, that's drugs and alcohol?
Yes.
How long have you worked in those fields? Addiction nursing and mental health nursing?
Since 2004.
And would you agree that one of your specialties is concierge addiction services?
It was, yes.
What are concierge addiction services?
We would. Good question. I mainly deal with higher end clients and provide care, go to their home rather than have them come into facilities.
And would you at times provide 24/7 nursing care?
Yes.
And you'd also be a patient's travel companion for nursing care?
Yes.
And you own your own company?
Yes.
And what was the company's name?
Turning Point.
Okay. And do you still own Turning Point?
Yes.
And what does Turning Point do?
Provides services. It's actually no longer, I still own it, but I don't work with it anymore. It provides services to either nursing or sober companion services to patients.
And when did you start Turning Point?
I don't recall the exact year.
Does anyone else own it?
No.
How many people work at Turning Point?
I'm the only employee.
And what do you have, contract nurses who work for you?
I did, yes.
And what does Turning Point do now, if anything?
Sits dormant.
Okay. And when did it start to sit dormant?
About 2 years ago.
Is there any particular reason why?
And that's when I became a nurse practitioner and changed my career path.
We'll continue to translate. Copy. Hold on. There is it's a little tricky here. Be careful, don't touch the antenna with your head. Okay, I am one more flight down, so to say, a section. All right, 4110. And we copy Oleg. And 4109. That's where I am. I am here next to BL 3, Aero Base Point 3. Oleg, be mindful how much you are spending the battery. I'm 4111 and 4112, and I'm monitoring the whole process. Okay, I got it. The MMI. Now here, be careful. This path here is pretty challenging, so mind the tethers. How goes it? Not bad. Right there, this one. And we can just move there straight away.
This is Mission Control Houston, a good view up the Naoka Multipurpose Laboratory Module.
Did you leave it?
Artemiev and the red stripes at the top of the two cosmonauts, Matveyev at the bottom.
There we go.
They're holding the European Robotic Arm Control Panel, and you can see
all right. Hold this.
Two of the base points, as they're called. This is where thermal covers are currently covering grapple fixtures to which the European robotic arm ultimately will be affixed to during the next spacewalk when it begins its first motion away from its stowed position on the multipurpose laboratory module.
Lightning.
At the very top of your screen is the Prishal node module that arrived at the International Space Station last November. And out of the field of view, but docked to Prishal, is the Soyuz MS-21 that transported Artemiev, Matveyev, and Sergei Korsakov to the station about a month ago.
Take it over from you. Dennis, while Oleg is translating, please check that you should have a BTL there and it needs to be secured. Yes, there is this like a bow tie that's securing it, so I can just untie it if need be. Copy. Okay. Let's deal with that later. Also, guys, be careful. Solar arrays. Yeah, we'll deal with the better later. Yeah, agreed. Now, I've got the EMMI 4114 and 4559, and we are at UFP payload interface 2. And we are almost at the pressurized adapter. And Dennis is translating, and I am monitoring the EMMI kit.
The reference that you're hearing through the interpreter to EMMI is the acronym that is attached to the European Robotic Arm Spacewalk Control Panel. They will soon be installing that on a tray adapter along a handrail on the Naoka Multipurpose Laboratory Module as the two cosmonauts work in tandem, approaching the 1 hour mark into today's spacewalk.
Over the EMMI to him. There we go. Oh, and here are the thrusters. Pretty clean. Guys, try and not touch them. No contact with any of the thrusters. We'll do our best. But it's so tempting. Okay. Now, I'm at 4400, 4562, and 4562. And give me the EMMI. Hold on. Let me get it from you. Now, I've got it. And I'm translating. Sounds good. 4400, and it's going to be struck number 3. And the thrusters are so shiny and like so tempting to touch them. So we are support 3. Okay, Dennis, turn your legs back, turn your feet back, and move over to me head first. Wow, that's beautiful. Dennis, be mindful of the thrusters. Oleg just told us that there is some lubricating oil on them. Okay, so Dennis is secured to 4561, and I'm on 4562 handrail, secured. Now, please take this Olympic torch from me. The EMMI. There we go. Slow and steady makes it. $45.64. 4401 is in no-go handrail. Yes, and just be careful. Mask is unintelligible. Okay. Oleg. All right, I'm at this handrail at 4401. Dennis, maybe it's best if you switch to S-beta. So ahead of Oleg. No, hold on, and don't let the EMMI go. And don't leave. Okay. Sergey, which tether do we leave? Do we leave the adjustable tetherette or just the red? You leave a safety tether on handrail 4401. So 2 locks that are securing the cover. The top of the cover? Okay. All right, let's turn it towards me. And where is the handrail? Okay, we're getting to the handrail. Here is the handrail. Hold it. Stop, stop, stop. Turn it in such a way that both locks of the top of the cover are towards PHO. Copy, Moscow. So let's switch to 4400 meanwhile. We will have time to orient it as you are telling us, but let's figure it out what we are doing with the tray adapter for now, like do what we need. Okay, you've got it? I got it. Hold it. Oleg, Dennis. So there is about 5 minutes left in the eclipse, and then you will be in the sunrise. Now hold it. And we need to switch the point where we are secured, where we have it secured. Okay. There. Okay, and now the tray adapter, and the tray adapter is secured. Okay. Oleg, you have it secured, right? Of course. We have the EMMI secured to 4401. And now we are looking for something to secure the... So you are ready to start working with the tray adapter? We are getting ready. Copy. We're getting ready to work with the tray adapter.
Coming up on the 1 hour mark in today's spacewalk, Artemiev and Matveyev about to install a tray adapter on a fixture outside of the multipurpose laboratory module, upon which the European robotic arm control panel will be installed, and electrical and data cables will be hooked up to that control panel for the initial testing of its operability by Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center.
So the adapter, tray adapter is removed from the handrail. Copy, Oleg.
И устанавливая его на поручень 4401.
Please install it on the handrail.
Фал
4401.
То есть у тебя фал должен быть между кронштейном поручня.
And the equipment tether should be between the adapter and the bracket. So what about the wing nut? What the direction it should be oriented? You know, it is actually at your discretion, Oleg, so that it is convenient for you to work with it, with this wing nut. Okay?
Олег, снимать будете вы в 54-м. Вот, и шарик должен смотреть на себя.
You will remove it, and the pin should be directed at you. Okay.
Олег, причем трещотка его нужно.
And should I use the ratchet wrench here? Yes, you should tighten it. A few rotations with the ratchet wrench. I copied. So I am retrieving the ratchet wrench.
Стив, а ты пока попробуй.
Dennis, and in the meantime.
Нет, все хорошо, Денис. Мы сначала...
No, you don't have to do anything, Dennis. Disregard.
Выходы из тени, у нас осталась минута.
Okay, just 1 minute before the sunrise, so I am removing the ratchet wrench. It is removed. Copy, Oleg.
Олег, и не забудь забрать РЭД, который страховал адаптер поддона к...
Oleg, don't forget to retrieve also the red tether that used to secure the tray adapter.
Just over an hour into today's spacewalk, Oleg Artemiev and Denis Matveyev. Artemiev on the bottom of the two cosmonauts in this view. Matveyev just above him as they work to install a adapter tray upon which the European Robotic Arm Control Panel will be installed as the first major task of today's spacewalk, the first of several, perhaps up to a half a dozen or more, that will activate and operate the European robotic arm in the first phase of its activity to augment the Canadarm2 robotic arm and the Japanese robotic arm that operate on the U.S. segment of the International Space Station. This European robotic arm was launched on the NAOCA multipurpose laboratory module. The next spacewalk, 10 days from now on April 28th, will see these two cosmonauts releasing a number of launch locks and launch restraints and begin the process of monitoring the arm's first tentative steps away from its launch and stowed position to other base points upon which it will grapple on either end of two grapple fixtures. Basically the same concept as the Canadarm2 robotic arm with two end effectors that can grapple various grapple points along the NAOCA multipurpose laboratory module to provide additional robotic capability to move people and payloads around the Russian segment of the complex. The station is about to enter an orbital sunrise over the Pacific Ocean, moving from southwest to northeast. The two spacewalkers, after a slight delay in getting out of the Poisk airlock, are right on the timeline of their activities from that point on.
That is pulling me here. Just a minute. Unintelligible. It is secured with a magnetic lock. Good. Now we will connect it. Now, Oleg, you will have to move to SBT, a launch base point area, and unfold MLI, and then work with the connectors there. Okay, I guess we don't need the lights here. The light is off, OFF. Okay, I'm moving away to give you space, Dennis. Yes, just like that. Will you be able to squeeze in? Dennis? Please be careful with your feet so that don't break the panel. Stand by. So my kit is in the way here. That's it. That's it. Now go ahead. Here you go. Excellent. Олег, so please check whether the adjustable tether should be used here. Stand by one, I will check. Adjustable tether. So that it does not move about. Yes, that's correct. And the hook is secured to the handrail 4401. Maybe it will be best to secure it to a different handrail. So we will take it with us, correct? Or we will leave it there? No, you will leave it there. Actually, both tethers should be left there. Of course, during the EVA number 54, we will need those in order to move the panel. But it will be later on, much later. All right. So I am leaving these tethers in place. So you will connect the connector H2, but first of all, you will have to release them, and there is a locking wire there that you will have to cut, for they are right now beneath the MLI cover. Unintelligible. Dennis, you will have to translate to S-beta launch base point area. Dennis, you are too far away. You are too far up. You will have to move. Okay. I am moving in order to give you more space, Dennis. And I am unfolding the cable. Dennis, so this MLI flap should be moved upwards, and so that you can see the H2 connectors there.
One hour, 10 minutes into today's spacewalk, Matveyev and Artemyev working at what is called the launch base point, where the European robotic arm was stowed during its launch, affixed to the Naoka multi-purpose laboratory module when it took off on a Proton M rocket from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan last July. They're in the process of opening up thermal covers and the cover to the European robotic arm control panel box so that they can begin to hook up the first of several connectors that will provide electrical and data capability to the box for commanding from the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Korolyov. The commanding capability also is routed so that cosmonauts working inside the Russian segment of the station can maneuver that arm around once its outfitting is completed over the course of several spacewalks.
Unintelligible. So there are some two marks, yes, but also, there should be a number 2. Please look at the other side. And on the opposite side, there is the barcode.
And the view you're seeing of Artemiev and Matveyev working on the Naoka multipurpose laboratory module is from a camcorder set up inside the Zvezda service module by cosmonaut Sergei Korsakov, who is acting as an intravehicular crew member supporting the spacewalk from inside the Russian segment of the station.
Yes, now I can see number 2. Copy, Dennis. Now please get from Oleg the connector 510 and then mate it to the connector H2. Yes, I'm standing by for Oleg to give me this part of the cable. So just one wire, lock wire is left. I'm working with it. Copy, Oleg. So the cable is untied now. Copy. Олег, a reminder. You are in the area of the thrusters, and please, under no circumstances, touch the thrusters. Dennis, hold it. Don't pull it. Please now show me where are you going to connect it. Yes. Yeah, you will have to do it in such a way that it is routed properly and connected well. Maybe it should be rotated a little bit, moved around. Now I am holding it. Yes, that's great. That's exactly. Okay, sorry. I took it from you again. Now, you saw a wire tie here. Before you connect the cable, please make sure that all the markings are proper. Yes, the big contact is opposite the PIP pin. Well, Dennis, that's exactly the configuration that we need. All right, Dennis, it's a go to mate the connectors. Oleg, in the meantime, you can start opening the MLI. You know, I think I should secure this wire tie beforehand so that cable does not move around a lot. Yes. You can do that, and after you are done with that, you can start opening the outer cover. So I secured it with the hook. Yes, Dennis, you're doing everything correctly. I'm opening the outer cover. Unintelligible.
1 hour, 15 minutes into the spacewalk by Artemiev and Matveyev. Artemiev at the bottom, Matveyev at the top, as they are in the process of now opening the suitcase-like EMMI, that's the acronym for the European Robotic Arm Spacewalk Control Panel box that will be mounted on a tray adapter. They're in the process of installing on the outside of the Naoka multipurpose laboratory module.
Please make sure that
they'll be hooking up a number of connectors for both electrical and data capability that will be tested during the course of today's spacewalk with some preliminary commanding that will be provided by the Russian flight control team outside of Korolyov. At the very top of your screen is the Prashal node module, the 6 docking port bulbous module that arrived at the station and docked to Naoka last November, and upon which the Soyuz MS-21 spacecraft is currently docked. In just a few minutes, the media channel of NASA television, we're currently simulcasting on both the public and the media channel of NASA TV. The media channel is going to go down to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida for today's arrival of the Crew 4 astronauts, Kjell Lindgren, Bob Hines, Jessica Watkins, and Samantha Cristoforetti, who left Ellington Field outside of the Johnson Space Center here in Houston this morning and are approaching the landing strip at the Kennedy Space Center, where they will continue their quarantine before their scheduled launch this coming Saturday on their Crew Dragon Freedom to the International Space Station and the start of their own 6-month mission. Once the arrival activities down at KSC are complete, the media channel will rejoin us on the public channel for simulcasting of the rest of today's spacewalk.
Alex, stand by one. So Dennis, did you manage to reload the camera? Yes, the LED is on. Are you receiving the image from my camera? Yes, we are. Dennis. Dennis, you can now move to the plane 1 for the removal of the protective covers. Now, 45, 62, 51 handrails. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so please confirm that the panel is on, it is operating, it is on. I confirm that green LED is on, the power is also green, and the parameters, MMI 1, English status, now menu, start, config, stop, copy, Alec. Then by once we receive the confirmation, we will give you a go to work with the covers. Sergey, what about the time? How are we on the time of the aviation? Everything is good. You are following the cyclogram almost exactly to the minute. All right. Thank you. Now I will translate here. This is Dennis. Copy. Stand by one.
Добро получено. Начинаем работать с Эми. Производим загрузку Эми на внутреннюю шину.
Олег, will start loading MMI to the internal bus. Okay, internal bus. So I am working on the cue card that is on the left, correct?
This is Mission Control Houston, 1 hour, 20 minutes into the spacewalk. Good news being reported out of the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov that the newly installed European robotic arm control panel box is receiving power through the connecting of a series of cables, both electrical and data cables. Further testing to be conducted throughout the course of the spacewalk as you watch Denis Medvedev on the right, Oleg Artemiev on the left, as they are continuing to hook up various pieces of equipment to that control box that will, as the name implies, control the operation and movement of the European robotic arm from one location to another along the Russian segment of the International Space Station.
Олег, когда будешь работать на внешнем пульте, каждый тумблер проговаривает.
Олег, when you start working with the external panel, so every movement should be reported, every move, every message that you receive. Copy, I understand. So, MMI initialization on the internal bus cue card. Yes, and I am starting working the steps. Step number 1. So this auto menu, MMI configuration. Copy, Alex. So I'm pressing the stop button according to step number 2. Is it a go? Yes, we give you a go. You can press the button. And hold it down for 2 seconds. Okay, hold it down for 2 seconds. Now I have.
And with power now flowing into the European robotic arm control panel, the 2 cosmonauts are in the process of performing a health check on the unit, basically a self-diagnostic test.
Yes, that's correct. Number of the step is 4, Alex. Copy. So now I'm at step 5 on the display. I can see menu of the configuration 1553 bus, and I'm selecting start. Copy, Alex. Everything is correct. I pressed start button. On the menu display, I can see ID selection option, and I am selecting ID 1, and I'm pressing the button, and I'm standing by for checkups, not more than 1 minute. Yes, that's right. So checkout is progressing, and I can see the displays. They all are illuminated. Okay, Dennis, please give your report. Unintelligible 14, the last 2 digits of the handrail. I am going down. So this is Alek. The checkups of the display is continuing. Copy, Alek. So MMI 1 English is selected. I can see it on display. Copy, Alek. Thank you. Now there is a suggestion to press start button. Yes, we give you a go, Alek. You can press start. The button start is pressed. I have pressed the button start, and now it tells me to press stop button. Copy, Alek. It's a go to press stop button in work. So it is done. Now the suggestion is to press emergency button. Yes, you have a go. I am pressing emergency button. It is done. Now it suggests that I do release emergency. Yes, that's correct. So I am moving the switch and the displays are not illuminated anymore. And I can see the display with the coordinates. And so I have the coordinates lines here, and the LED is on. And now MMI and internal bus, everything is illuminated. Well done, Alek. So the loading of the MMI on the internal bus is complete. Олег, well done. Now you will, we will stand by for the next confirmation, and you can have a rest, Олег. And Олег, a reminder, the emergency switch should not be touched or pressed. You mean I can do it on your go, but I cannot do it in the meantime, correct?
Нет, его нужно только в случае нештатной ситуации.
You know, it can be pressed only during the emergency. It should not be pressed in any other situation. Oh, copy that.
Мы наблюдаем, что ты дошел до BTL-3.
Denise, we can see that you are on BTL-3. Yes, now please secure the cover. Copy.
Подскажи вот эту крышку снятую.
And this removed cover from H2 connector, Sergey, where should I put it? Into the bag?
Денис,
зафиксируй
ее на каком-нибудь свободный карабин.
To some available hook in the cap keeper. Okay, will do.
Так, Денис, там получается?
So, Denise, how are you doing? So, please go ahead on space to ground 1. Sergey, we ask you to answer on space to ground 1. You know, they are looking for Sergey, maybe somewhere doing in the mess room or in the kitchen.
Ты можешь пока поснимать пульт, обстановку.
Okay, you can, in the meantime, you can take pictures of the panel. We are flying over Canada. This is Oleg. This is Canada below. So you mean to take pictures? You mean to activate the camera, Sergey? Yes, that's correct. If you know you want, you can do it. Well, I'm working only on your go and your command. Yes, Oleg. We give you a go also to take pictures of the cable, and also we would like to see how the external panel is installed, the installation configuration. All right.
Денис, подскажи, чехол, он был затянут на... все, наблюдаю.
Денис, okay, never mind, I can see it now.
В общем, он был завязан на бантик, а под бантиком узел.
Well, it was...
Ты этот узел срезал, правильно?
Tightened in a knot, and did you cut it off? Yes.
Отлично. Теперь смотри, как тебе удобнее. Или на Keeper.
And now
в трэшбэк.
You can do what works best for you. You can either use the cap keeper or you can stow in the trash bag.
Погода хорошая сегодня.
The weather is so nice today.
Есть, я тебя снимаю.
Денис, I'm filming you.
Так, эту с БТЛ-3 снял.
Okay, this is Denise. I have removed it from the SBT launch this point. Okay. Move to the second point, and you please remove 2 covers there.
Так, и разъем тоже заснять, да?
Should I film the connector as well?
Да, Олег, засними.
Yes, Oleg, please go ahead and do that too.
Это чехол открою.
So let me open up the cover then.
Ага.
There it goes.
Вернуть этот
Okay, let me go back there. I forgot to take pictures of the connector. Well, actually, I'm doing that already. Okay, so I'm going to proceed with the second one then. Okay, it is very well connected. And we're going to have to remove these covers at some point, right? Yes, Oleg, we're going to remove these covers during the next EVA. Well, I see that there are no ties or anything else here. Okay, yes, we'll be able to open it up easily. All right, Oleg. So I guess we're going to save battery power. Yes, you can go ahead and turn it off. 22, 23. It is off, and also I checked that it got turned off. Copy all?
This is Mission Control Houston, an hour and 33 minutes and change into today's spacewalk by Artemiev and Matveyev. They are right on the timeline, in fact, slightly ahead of the timeline, even though they began the spacewalk a few minutes behind schedule. They have already connected the European Robotic Arm Control Panel box to a tray adapter on the NAOCA Multipurpose Laboratory Module. It is receiving power. They are in the process of checking out self-diagnostic health messages and are beginning the process of removing some protective covers from the area and the launch base points upon which the European robotic arm was affixed during its launch on NAOCA back in July of last year.
Go ahead and stow the cutter in the tool kitty. We aren't going to need it during this operation here. We're going to need it at the next point. Okay, copy that. Denise, would it make sense to... Yes, go ahead. Maybe it would make sense to drop the small hook on the cap keeper case. Yes, I guess that would work. Otherwise, it's just not that convenient here. And did you have a question about the hatch? The time of hatch opening was 15:01. So we've been outside 1.5 hours. Yes, and to be exact, it's been 1 hour and 35 minutes outside.
Денис, теперь нужно сделать фотографирование.
All right, Denise. And now please proceed with taking photographs. It's in work.
Олег, тебе еще минут 5 отдыхать.
Oleg, and you can rest for about 5 minutes now. Should I help Denise?
Нет, Олег, буквально еще немного, и мы начнем с тобой работать.
No, Oleg, please stand by for now, and we will start your activities soon. And Denise, as soon as you're done with taking photographs, so maybe it would make sense for you to rest as well. Well, yes, I guess I could take 5.
Давайте, тогда сейчас
All right.
дождемся квитанции от Сергея.
So let's wait for Sergey's confirmation, and once he hands it over to Oleg, when he hands the control over to Oleg, we will proceed. Hope you all. Denise, take a look. This is our Soyuz. Let me look around. Oh, yeah, I can see it now.
Денис, посмотри, как раз ты сейчас держишься за тот поручень, который...
Denise, you're holding onto the rail that you will use for translation to the parallel handrail near the base point 2. So just take a look around now to make sure that you know in what direction you will be translating. Yes, I can see it from here.
Все верно, они напротив.
They are across from me. Yes, that is correct. They're in front of you. Okay, let me...
The view from a variety of different cameras of today's spacewalk that is now 1 hour, 38 minutes in duration, as Oleg Artemiev and Denis Medvedev have made quick work of the installation and initial checkout of the European Robotic Arm Control Panel. This is the control panel through which commands will be sent to operate the arm, either from the Russian Mission Control Center or from the cosmonauts from a workstation inside the Russian segment of the station. Artemiev on the left, Medvedev on the right, and at the top of your screen, the Prashal node module to which the Soyuz MS-21 vehicle is attached that brought Artemiev, Medvedev, and Sergei Korsakov to the station a month ago.
Okay. It's just the fact that the sun is shining right on the card and really not letting me see anything, but I guess I'm going to wait for it to go away. Oleg, please repeat your last. What I'm saying is that the sun is shining right on the cue card, and the filter is not sufficient.
Well, we follow the activities by the two cosmonauts in today's spacewalk, the 249th, in support of space station assembly, maintenance, and upgrades on the NASA TV media channel. The crew 4 astronauts, Kjell Lindgren, Bob Hines, Jessica Watkins, and Samantha Cristoforetti have arrived at the Kennedy Space Center for final pre-launch preparations. You can follow that activity on the NASA TV media channel.
You can start the exact same actions that you just did, and then we will be also working with Oleg at that point.
Денис, ты меня услышал?
Denise, did you copy? Yes, copy all. This is Denise. Oleg, make sure that the external control unit is in the manual mode. Yes, I confirm that it is in manual mode. Manual mode, excellent copy. And
Russian flight controllers instructing the two cosmonauts to configure that robotic arm control box into what is called the manual mode so it can transfer to an automated sequence from Korolyov, part of the diagnostic testing of the control box and its functionality. Meanwhile, the International Space Station is flying from northwest to southeast, approaching the coast of Africa over Senegal.
Yes, I'm ready to start the activity with the control unit now. Okay, copy. Oh, okay, Oleg, we'll put it in work now. Please confirm again that the unit is in manual mode. It is in manual mode. LED for manual mode is illuminated. Copy. Switching to the second one, the switch is in operating position and standby. Copy. The LED is blinking, and I'm now waiting for the standby mode and inaudible. And did you get the message? Yes, I just got the message. Message inaudible. Copy. I pressed on start, and the LED is now illuminated solid. And also, Denise, be careful with the cutter cord. Okay. Oleg, go ahead, please. Now number 7. I should get the SB Opega message after 1 minute from when I first got the message in the display. Yes, we're standing by for that. I see the message about the era mode, RP Opega. And also I see operation, standby. Standby, well, let's see. And Dennis, please assess if it would make sense now to still the cooler bag, the covers in the cooler bag. Yes, I confirm that the LED is illuminated, the standby LED, and switching to step 9 in the table. Inaudible. I should see the messages in the middle window, but they're not. Oleg, please repeat your last. What are you seeing? In step 9, 5, 10 should be in the middle window. And now it says step 4, 10. Yes, it should be 4, 10. Okay, so is there an error then? We updated it prior to the EVA. Okay, so I will press on the right and it switch to the left window. The selected task should be in the left field. So this is done. 11, step 11 is done. Switching to 12. Okay. The LED is blinking. Pressing on start. Copy. Go ahead and press start. I was holding it for 2 seconds, and the LEDs are solid, and I will press it done. Let's see what happens next. I see that the task is in progress. Task 4 is complete now. And I see the following on the display: C5 in the middle window, and the cue card says T619. And I will proceed with step 15. Scroll to the right, selecting the command. Task 5 is selected. It has switched to the left field. I think your phone was close to the emergency switch. Okay, copy that. LED is blinking near the start button, sending the start command to execute task 5. Is that correct? Can you confirm? Yes, go ahead and press on start.
At the 1 hour, 48-minute mark into the flight, as the International Space Station crosses the west coast of Africa, a great view of the Earth from the helmet cam of one of the 2 cosmonauts, Artemiev and Matveyev, working in tandem outside of the Naoka multipurpose laboratory module, conducting a series of diagnostic tests on the newly installed European robotic arm spacewalk control panel.
All right, and you just stow it for now with the cap keeper, and then Oleg will help you to put it in the bag. Okay, and you can go on. Oleg, go ahead now. Task 5 is now complete. I can now select task 6. Copy. And I am selecting the commands on the right. That's correct. Task 6 is selected, and I should now press start. This is step 22. Actually 23 already. Go ahead and press start. All right, it's done. Okay. Well, let's see what we get now.
The 2 cosmonauts are in the process of pushing a series of buttons on that control panel that you see here in the field of view. That essentially is a health check of various commands that will be given in the future by either the cosmonauts from a control panel inside the Russian segment of the station or by Russian flight controllers at Korolyov as they operate the robotic arm for a variety of tasks to move payloads and people around on the outside of the multipurpose laboratory module.
Denis, you can also take 5. I will start translating slowly now. Well, Denis, if you feel tired, you should pause and rest. Denise, how is it going? I am now at this point 4, and now I'll start taking photographs. Well, I can't see you, Denise. Denise, inaudible? Near the MLM. Okay, copy. Denise, do you have it in your hands? Yes. So, what about the kit with the covers? Is it in the way? No, not really, if I move it slightly. I think you should push it away from yourself while translating. Okay, Dennis. So, to make sure it works better for you, try removing the small cap first. Well, it doesn't really make much difference. Anyways, proceed per your discretion, whatever works best for you, but make sure you take pauses to rest. Denise, just a reminder of please make sure you're monitoring the cutter. Make sure that it is inside its case while you're translating. Okay, copy all.
One hour, 54 minutes into the spacewalk. The reports continue to come in from the Russian Mission Control Center, and they're all good with the diagnostic tests all so far having been completed successfully in testing out the health and responsiveness of the newly installed European robotic arm control panel box.
Denise, once you're done cutting, please stow the cutter away in its case. Well, it's not that easy to cut it with it. It's sort of blunt. Well, we're going to sharpen when we get back. Denise, just make sure that you're careful with it. Just go ahead and put it in its case right away. Okay. Oleg, get ready to start sending the commands. Copy. Getting ready. Moscow is inaudible. Caution is eliminated. Do not press anything for now. Stand by for the command. Okay. And Denise, what we have left to do is just remove the cover and from the grapple picture. Yes, correct.
We're about to hit the 2-hour mark in today's spacewalk. Denise Matveyev is removing protective covers from a variety of payload interfaces on the outside of the NAOCA multipurpose laboratory module. The European robotic arm, once it's fully operational,
yes,
which will unfold over the course of the next several spacewalks by these two cosmonauts,
4555 and
will move various payloads to and from their deployment points on the Russian segment of the International Space Station over to these payload interfaces to affix them to the outside of NAOCA so that they can gather data.
To continue with the EM.
All right. So we're tuning at 2 p.m., correct? All right. Okay, thank you.